Two kinds of people: those who write their script and those who follow someone else's. Scripted stay on script, hit their marks, follow the arranged scenes, and say their assigned lines on cue. 9/11 was an intel failure, Benghazi was a surprise, Fast and Furious was a mistake, COVID was a pandemic, Wuhan was a lab leak, January 6th was an insurrection, October 7th was a 7-hour oversight, Butler was a security lapse, the FBI investigates crime and stops terrorism, and the CIA is axiomatic. Scripters write their own. They flip the script, turn the claymore, spotlight the gaslight. They break chains, kick over boxes, climb out of silos, speak the unspeakable, tear off blinders. Instead of looking where they're told, they see where they shouldn't. And in slaughtering sacred cows, they realize 9/11 was intel-driven. Benghazi was arranged. Fast and Furious was government gun running. COVID was a psyop. Wuhan was a dangle. January 6th, a setup. October 7th, a stand down. Butler was a failed Fed hit. The FBI covers up crime and stages terrorism. And Central Intelligence is an oxymoron. But Central Scripting is not, because the truth is too terrible for the timid, including the Trump cultists. God is real. The devil is here. Hell is near. The Bible is true, and we are accountable. The government is not here to help. Big church, tech, pharma want our kids acting out the fat, dumbed, drugged script or democided. Yeshua said, "Feed my sheep," but Big G says, "Shear them." I'm a retired SOCOM soldier, former DEA special agent, and ex-DIA intelligence officer turned whistleblower warrior, targeted by the deep state, served and sabotaged, rejected and redeemed, failed and forgiven, betrayed and saved, rejecting revenge, humbled and blessed, repurposed in redemption, as chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller. Now America's intelligence officer, following God, leading my family, and any that choose to join on our long walk to faith and freedom. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Very good show today, and appreciate all your comments on Tuesday's show. See Marco and Carly Simon there on X. Appreciate that. I'm 5x5 there. See John Guess on Rumble. So Sasha Latypova will be here guesting. We'll be talking about RFK. Is he retreating or is he entrapping? But first, we're going to get into Epstein's isolation move implicates the Bureau of Prisons and, of course, the Department of Justice. Hardly breaking news, but I'm going to go into that in some detail. The video footage is not even of Epstein's cell. That is breaking. And the significance of Secret Service on the POTUS hits that were suspended, not fired. And Cartel America is becoming Mexico, and the ex-Marine Antifa cop sniper is an example of that. And yes, I know there are no ex-Marines. There are only former Marines, once a Marine, always a Marine, but I've got to save space. So the first thing is this breaking another massive Epstein bombshell. That Epstein's body was in his room on the upper level L tier where they found him, not the lower level shown in the video. So we already know they've said that there was no list. Now, this is the cover-up. This is the cover-up because he belongs to the intelligence community, to CIA and Mossad. It's real clear. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was CIA or Mossad. Les Wexner of Victoria's Secrets as well. Epstein was moved from M tier until he was attacked in prison. Who was he attacked by? He was attacked by a former New York police officer, Tartagliani, who had murdered 4 others, who was obviously not murdering for himself. He was murdering for the mob. So he's a trained police officer employed by the mob. And that was Epstein's roommate. So you're supposed to believe that they thought, yeah, that's a good person to put in with someone we're trying to keep alive. No. And then he was attacked. And of course, Tartagliani, 4 life sentences, says, no, I got no idea who attacked him the first time, who was beat up. Well, that's why he was moved. He was then put on suicide watch. Not that he was committing suicide. And then he made his will 2 weeks before he was suicided. And then he was moved to the upper L tier. and then he was found dead on August 10th, 2019, cell number 220. But the move proves that he was being isolated. Why? So that there were less witnesses. This is Bureau of Prisons doing this, putting him in with a 4-time life sentence ex-cop mafia hitman who fails to kill him, and then moving him. Their corruption makes them incompetent, and they are so corrupt they are really incompetent. They can't run wet work hits at all. That's obvious with the Butler hit. That's obvious with the Ruthie idiot as well. They've become very, very incompetent. Of course, there was the minute, the 61 seconds actually spliced out right before midnight that I talked about, because that's a easy time to coordinate right before midnight. And now Levitt, the spokesperson, is saying, well, that's where the tape resets every night. Well, then, then that's the gap. If it was a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible thing, oh, there's our gap. 1 minute. We got 1 minute. There's a lot of stuff you can do. If you're a free fall parachutist, you can do a lot of stuff in 1 minute. So this is very, very clear that they were in on it, and they are going to lie about it. And it's a test for us if we are going to put up with this, if we are going to move on. Where Trump says, what, you still want to talk about this? Hey, you should be talking about the floods, which means the weather weapons were caused, the children were murdered to distract and dangle from the Epstein debacle that is in thrall to the elite and the intelligence community, to the deep state. But this latest revelation is that the video that we were shown was not even on the right cell. The surveillance footage that you will see taken from the closed circuit television system, CCTV, also known as a closed system DVR, digital video recorder setup, the camera angles is positioned outside of Epstein's L tier. The camera is facing down at tier M. You aren't even looking at Epstein's cell. So they are lying to us again about the whole thing. Because their corruption makes them incompetent. And I'm still losing supporters. So if you can, please sign up to support the show. But first, get teamamericacoffee.com, teamamericacoffee.com. You'll get a 20% discount there. Stay Brewed Coffee. Our Stay Brewed Coffee just came in. I'm drinking it. At the end of the month, we're always like, where's the coffee? Because that's the best. So that's Craig and Lori Wire and their 7 girls, great Christian constitutional family. They've been on the show before a couple of times. They've actually been out and visited us, and they were at Great American Meetup. It's not like that Black Rifle fake tranny, fake patriot who gave up Kyle Rittenhouse. And I'm actually going to mention Kyle Rittenhouse again. But anyway, I just had another lady leave, and she's like, Trump is not enthralled to anybody but God. So this is the opposite of Trump syndrome, where you hate Trump. This is where you love Trump no matter what he does. She probably professes to be a Christian, although she is, through cognitive dissonance and psyops and propaganda, actually making Trump a messiah. Trump is not a messiah. Trump is an ally until he is not. And he appears that he is not an ally anymore. So anyway, she's canceling. So I said, okay, good luck and God bless, and good luck with that Church of Trump thing. And showed her some Epstein files on BitChute that's on my Patreon feed. But if you can support the show, appreciate it. JeffreyPrather.locals.com, $9 a month, $90 a year. Or patreon.com/JeffreyPrather at the $5 level, or the $15 level, or the $25 level. Just did my handgun martial arts class with Point Patriots on there. One of them actually passed their first test, and there's an opportunity then to train with me regularly, live monthly, and then in person as well. But appreciate it if you can support the show. But anyway, Another reporter asked Carolyn Levitt, the spokesman, hey, DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Epstein list. So what do you tell MAGA supporters that don't believe that? She says, the Trump administration is committed to truth and transparency. That's why Attorney General and FBI Director pledged at the president's direction to do an exhaustive review, not a new case, a review. And so what do you think you're going to find when you review the old files? You're going to find exactly what they want you to find and nothing more. But she also said there was material that they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and contained child pornography. What she means is little kids with raccoon eyes because they've been sodomized. And it's something not appropriate for the public. But there's no problem there. We don't care about the children. We care about protecting Mossad, CIA, and the pedophile elite, and that is the reality. And Bondi works for Trump. It's Trump's responsibility. And if you're buying into that, then you're buying into the fact that Trump is some kind of Messiah. Trump ain't Jesus. So I'm not of the Church of Trump. Trump's an ally as long as he's with us, and he is an ally until he is not. But this is really a test for us. Again, psychological warfare and sorcery. And so this is what I explained the other day. The sheeple's blind alliance to the MAGA cult, Trump Messiah, and Israel overrule Yeshua's own scriptural teachings in the Ruach Kodesh, which is great Holy Spirit in Hebrew, gifts of discernment. DOJ and AG Bondi are conspiring with Epstein, Mossad, CIA, FBI, Praetorian Guard, pedo pimps, and Bondi is Trump's choice. The cognitive dissonance psyop are so siloed that if Trump rounded them up, they would still defend him, just as per ex-KGB agent Yuri Bezmenov, who has talked about the psyoping. And that's why I say the CIA doesn't collect intelligence, it collects people. And the task of working with the transformative energy of the devil involves seeing past the appearance of evil. That's a practical guide to attainment in Aleister Crowley's system of magic. That's what's happening right now. If we overlook this and like, oh no, Trump's got this, it's all okay. That is what is going on. And I'm going to stand by that. And you can all leave. I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like to hear it. That's why I'm not as big anyway, is I don't sugarcoat things anyway. So that's very important to understand. Now, remember, in 2016, U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta defended his easy deal with Epstein because he was told Epstein belonged to the intelligence community, so leave him alone, which they did because it's obvious he didn't even have a college degree and he's teaching math in New York schools. He was arrested in July 2019. They executed a search warrant on the New York apartment. But the agents departed, abandoning photos and CDs, leaving Epstein employees free to wonder about the place. So why'd they leave that stuff that they found in a hidden safe? They found an enormous collection of photos of naked girls, which is girls, underage girls, which means children. And they didn't take them. Well, they weren't on the search warrant. Well, let me tell you, I've done search warrants where we were looking for drugs and guns and cash, and we found child porn. And there are Supreme Court rulings that are saying if you found something like that in good faith, it is admissible. So for the FBI to leave this is obvious that they are leaving this because they were called off by the CIA because the FBI covers for the CIA. But you're not going to hear that in this propaganda story. And of course, by the time the videos, now 4 days later, the FBI returned with a better search warrant. 4 days later? It's absurd. Hey, did you have enough time? It's just like bulldozing the evidence in Waco into the fire and hosing off the roof. This is all the FBI does. And they are rewarded with 2 new headquarters and a slightly smaller budget, I have to say. But this is what is going on. And if you're not willing to face that, if you're going to say, well, no, Trump's got this, it's a deep plan, then, I can't help you because you're just going to be rounded up. You're going to be like the Holocaust at being rounded. No, they won't really burn us alive. No, they really won't kill us all. The capacity and also thinking that Americans haven't done stuff like that. Everybody has done terrible things in warfare. Now in America, you watch all the movies and you think it's only the Indians. If you read history, not true at all. Read The Frontiersman by Alan Eckhart about Daniel Boone, Simon Kenton, Tecumseh, the truth about the bloody Ohio frontier. The frontiersmen were just as, if not more, savage than the Indians, and the Indians became savage because they got tired of being betrayed over and over again. So this is nothing new, but I'm just speaking the truth here. And I'm also telling you why I'm doing that. But anyway, so want to move on to the Secret Service suspended half a dozen agents without pay in the aftermath of the Butler shooting. So again, Secret Service special agents are like DEA special agents, are like FBI special agents. We're all 1811 criminal investigators of different things. For the Secret Service, it's counterfeit. And it's also presidential and dignitary protection. I've done a lot of that as well. I used to shoot with the Secret Service and the HMX, the Marine One guys. I've done when Santorum was running. I've done dignitary protection alongside Secret Service agents. I've done presidential dignitary protection in foreign countries. So, and I've taught that a lot as well. I've been to a lot of schools for that. So that the Secret Service suspended at least 6 agents in the aftermath of the assassination attempts in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then the following one, where Ryan Ruth tried to kill him, they were suspended. Are you kidding me? They should be fired. So when's the last time a president was shot? It was Reagan. It was decades ago. That's the Secret Service doesn't do much. Counterfeiting, and presidential details. The top of the heap of being a Secret Service 1811 is a presidential detail, and they get that wrong, and they're suspended. And they're suspended from 10 to 42 days. From 10 to 42 days. What's that mean? It means nothing. It means it's a Secret Service has been infiltrated. If it was for real, they would be out. And Trump making that Secret Service guy who couldn't get him off the X in Butler, the head of Secret Service, was ridiculous. And I know of what I speak. If you're getting shot at, you're going off the X, whether you want to go off the X or you don't want to go off the X. And now they said, oh, we got new military grade drones and everything. No, it was a setup. The government executive branch of special agents is totally infiltrated. I've talked about that for a long time. But also, I want to hit that Antifa is a domestic terrorist group, but it is not treated as one still. Why not? And just on July 4th, 11 black-garbed individuals, some equipped with body armor, ammunition, firearms, conducted what the DOJ described as a planned ambush. 2 of the attackers opened fire on ICE agents after their comrades initiated a disturbance to lure officers out of the building. So this is my cartel war that I have predicted, and it's coming true. But this is also the cartels employing Antifa as well, which they do. They take communist groups and they become narco groups. This is what the Sendero Luminoso, the Shining Path, did in Peru. They shifted because they wanted to fund themselves. But you don't see the DOJ or the FBI doing much about this. Now they're doing something because they got to, because the 12th suspect was a former Marine, again, reservist, and his name is Song. And he was one of the shooters, and he shot the Marine reservist Benjamin Song, 32, had 2 rifles, shot one of the cops in the neck and escaped. And now the FBI are offering a reward for him. And this was a group of 10 to 12. Well, that's a team. That's an ODA, 12 guys, operational detachment team. It's a former Marine. So not just Antifa guys, but now we're seeing former military with extensive training being recruited into Antifa by the cartel. This looks a lot like Mexico. This is exactly what happened in Mexico. America is being cartelled just like Mexico is. And the FBI can't find him. Of course, they're offering a $25,000 reward. So let me get this straight. So do you remember Kyle Rittenhouse and how they went after him? And then it turns out that the child molester and the wife beater, who are both Antifa, who are chasing Kyle down as he tries to run away, who's behind them? Do you remember? FBI agent is running behind them, guiding them, just like at Garland, Texas. There was an FBI agent who drove. He drove his G ride, and then they followed him to the Draw Muhammad event, and then they got out with their AKs and got killed by a Garland cop. Had that the sponsor of that event on a while back. But again, getting back to Kyle Rittenhouse, there was an FBI agent behind the child molester and the wife beater, Antifa, and what was overhead? An FBI drone. So now we're supposed to believe that the FBI has not infiltrated Antifa to the extent that they can find these guys. Or no, they're running these guys again. It's real clear. That's why they can't find them, because the FBI infiltrates everybody. Look at the Wolverines, the hapless guys who watched Red Dawn too many times and didn't know what they were doing at all. And yeah, isn't it amazing how well equipped and well trained Antifa is? Remember, I had Joe Kent. Joe Kent was, I know, a member of. I was DEA credentialed. I was DIA credentialed simultaneously, but I was also in a Tier 1 intelligence special missions unit. I've talked about that foreign operations group. That turned into something else. Joe Kent was in that, what that became later. And when he came on, he wouldn't talk about it. He said they're well trained, but he wouldn't say, well, then who trained them? Well, the G trained them. It's obvious who trained them, but it wouldn't go into that. So those are really important issues that are happening that I definitely wanted to hit before I get to my guest. That Epstein's isolation move implicates the Bureau of Prisons because they isolated him. His former roommate was a 4 life consecutive sentences former NYPD cop Tartaglione, who was obviously working for the mob, who was obviously put there to kill him. That was the attempt before when he was moved. The video footage isn't even of Epstein's cell. And the significance of the Secret Service on the POTUS hit suspended, not fired. It all means they are in on it, and you have to accept that. And if Trump doesn't know that by now, he is in on it. He's not a dumb guy at all. And they tried to kill him. So some kind of deal has been cut. I don't think he was in on it at Butler because, again, that's not fakeable. I don't think he was in at the Mar-a-Lago golf course, but at some point here, he has been turned, and that's real clear. And this is a test for us. Are we going to put up with this? Are we just going to move on? And we are not moving on so far. That's really good. That's really important. But Trump even said this. What, you still want to talk about Epstein? Why aren't you talking about the disaster in Texas? And that, of course, is Peter Thiel sponsoring the Rainmaker technology, the 25-year-old guy. So what I'm saying again, like I said last show, is those Texas children's deaths were caused on purpose as a dangle, as a distraction to get everybody away from the real issues. So that it's about Iran or it's about China, as opposed to it's really about the deep state. It's really about the CIA, the DOD, the Pentagon, who's never passed an audit, the FBI as well. And while the cartel war appears to be being waged by Trump, he has surrendered and is enthralled to the deep state. And the cartel war we know is being waged because cops are being shot. But again, the FBI is in on it. They have totally infiltrated those groups. I could go on about that, but I want to get to my guest because she's a wonderful guest. She's been on before. She's a former Ukrainian, now American. She's a former pharma executive turned whistleblower. She's a fabulous artist. I just love her stuff and show my kids her stuff all the time. And I've posted her, this time I've posted her art Substack because it's just so great. You should look at it. But there's a great quote on there. There are 3 classes of people: those who see when they are shown, those who do not see. That's Leonardo da Vinci. Then beyond a doubt, truth bears the same relation to falsehood as light to darkness, Leonardo da Vinci. And then simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, Leonardo da Vinci. And she can see because she can paint, but she can also see what's going on. And this is the analogy I'm making with this lady who I'm sure goes to church and everything, but is like, no, Trump is in thrall to God only, and I'm leaving you because you're daring to criticize Trump. Trump ain't Jesus. Trump ain't the Messiah. Trump is an ally in a shifting political tide until he is not. And I've been very, very kind and laudatory to Trump on many things, but this is where we have to hold the line. But I really want to get into that with Sasha, and she's here. And Sasha, thank you so much for your patience there. Welcome back.
Hi, Jeffrey. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was just looking at your beautiful paintings. I wish I was the artist you are. So impressive. I got to tell you again, your watercolor is just fantastic.
Yeah, I prefer to be an artist. I want to go back to being an artist.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, that's what I miss and keeps me sane, and that's why I make effort. Well, also people like it, so I post it on my Substack. And but
Well, you also auction off your stuff to support
yes,
COVID campaigns as well. So you're
yes,
very altruistic as well.
yeah, and
But I just
yeah, I'm planning to do more projects on that to like use art to call attention to the victims, because people don't want to read books. People want to stick their heads in the sand, and so art is another vector to try to get at the people that we haven't been able to wake up yet.
No, I've found that my intros and outros, people hear them and quote them. That's mimetic warfare, where they haven't read my books much or something. So maybe you need to do cartoons, little, to.
Cartoons is something I haven't done, but like
I'm sure they'd be fabulous, though. But so I did catch a little bit of your interview with Mike Adams recently, and I want to say you've been down on Trump for a long time, and so I want to acknowledge that you were right about that. Uh, and it's sad, but it's true.
uh-huh.
Uh, but you were hearing me talk. Anything you want to add to what I was saying there?
Well, yeah, like I mean, so I was I voted for Trump in the previous elections. In this election, I wasn't planning to because of the Operation Warp Speed and how he embraced it and continued promoting it, and even being booed at rallies, it didn't stop him. So he continued promoting it. So to me, that was the red line, and I was like, I can't stand behind a guy who I might like his economic policies. I might like his stance on all the, cultural stuff and immigration, but I just could not, bring myself to support him because of what he did with Operation Warp Speed, and that's continuing. It's not stopping. And so my concern was when RFK Jr. ended his campaign and joined Trump's campaign. I was, I was already concerned. I was like, well, Trump is saying we're going to unleash him on health and blah blah blah. But what is really going to happen? So that was kind of my worry, that Trump is going to isolate him and neuter any productive effort to bring justice and investigation into Operation Warp Speed. And so, yeah, that materialized clearly. Not only that, but also Epstein now.
Well,
To some
there
extent,
was also some kind of payoff. There were some documents talking about Trump paying off or promising some kind of payoff to RFK as
really.
well.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So, but I'm sure there's lots of money involved and lots of money behind all of what's happening, and his funders. And that's why I recently, I don't remember if discussed it on Mike's podcast, but I recently put out an article where I looked at the, how is pharma doing with Trump, and you can just easily search a pharmaceutical stock index, and you look at pharmaceutical industry stocks. They were flat to declining before Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed was unprecedented, massive increase. Like they just shot up. You can see the chart. Nothing like this has ever happened in any industry, frankly. And this was incredible manna from heaven for them, Operation Warp Speed. And then it declined under Biden. Biden wasn't good for them. And under Trump 2.0, it's again through the roof. It's at the same level as it was during Operation Warp Speed. Why? Because they're very clear communication from FDA, communication from HHS, and Trump admin to pharma companies that they're going to have their back and they're going to continue the same EUA countermeasures business, which is just plainly putting unregulated, liability-free poisons onto the market and falsely advertising them as medicines, which is what the FDA's role is, to falsely advertise them as medicine and to, certify the fraud onto the public. And they're
And I think one of the biggest points you made, I think, was that uh, RFK has the power to say that they can't advertise on television anymore. And it's just
Mhm.
America and New Zealand who do that, and that has not happened. Do I have that right, or I got that
Yeah,
wrong?
they keep talking about it and promising and talking like it's going to happen, but I haven't seen anything happening. I mean, I would support, I totally support that move that they should stop advertising on television. Now, television is a minor portion of advertising today. So who's watching TV? I don't have TV. I haven't had TV for 20 years. And so now advertising is online, digital. So when they're saying TV, that's broadcast TV. So okay, but even that move would be great. I would totally support that. But they haven't done anything on this yet.
So, but of the Trump, so I'm very, I was pretty happy with Trump getting in, although the machinery, the election fraud machinery, was still in place, so that made it very suspect. But I was very unhappy with the Constellation staff. I would have rather had Ken Paxton as AG. AG is the critical inflection point because if you don't have an honest AG, then anything goes.
Hmm.
It's not that she's becoming dishonest, but she's certainly spayed or neutered. She's not doing anything. There's no
Hmm.
there's no Biden indictments. There's nothing happening there. And Bongino and Patel are jokes,
Yeah.
and I've said that for a long time. But of the staff, I have thought that RFK has done more than most in some areas. Not enough, but some. But I was thinking that he was maneuvering, just like I think for next election, I think he'll be running, and I think he'll be a much more powerful candidate. And it may be that he's gathering his base now.
It may be that's so people were suggesting that there is some sort of blackmail over RFK Jr. I disagree with it. I don't think that's the case. I think what you just described, is basically the control mechanism over RFK Jr. So he has been somehow promised that now he's going to be socialized with all the financial backers of Trump, and Trump is, he's old and he can't run anymore. And so that's maybe one of the carrots that have been dangling in front of him to shut up about PrEP Act, shut up about EUA countermeasures, and continue this nonsense of MAHA. And then MAHA, has been designed by Kelly Means and his father Grady Means. And it's a complete distraction strategy. I saw it right away when they first published it in September of last year. I was like, this is a joke. This is what they're going to do. They're going to dilute the message about vaccines and they're going to distract to all sorts of things like pesticides and fluoride in water and the toxic chemicals, toxic dyes, food, a lot of food talk, which, nobody's forced any kind of food to attend school. Okay. But children get poisoned with 90 different shots of poison by the time they're 18. And no surprise, we have, 75% of children are chronically ill, and it's going up. And
Yeah.
in California we have 1 in 12 boys with autism. Why? Because California is the most fascist state as far as vaccines, as far as pushing vaccines on children, and everywhere in private schools, parochial schools, all kinds of schools. So that's what we're having, and none of this is going to stop if you remove titanium dioxide or some artificial dyes. It's not going to do anything. Even if you banned glyphosate that everybody's so up in arms about, it will do nothing. Nothing. You will continue having dead and injured children because the death and injury machine is the CDC. not glyphosate. Glyphosate is like, it's a maybe nuisance, maybe some risk after you got injured with vaccines, but vaccines first.
Yeah, so I think the inflection point was when he was on Air Force One with the McDonald's Whopper, saying, "Look, yeah, I'm on the team." That I think was,
Yes.
he probably didn't even eat it, or he probably spit it out. But the
He looked at
photo
it like,
op,
oh.
yeah, but that was probably, the turn right there. But he may be also consolidating his power base from inside. But of course, while he's inside, he is being, as you just said, influenced by all the big pharma money and all of that as well. By the way, you are everybody loves you on Sasha's a hero, and so are you, Jeff, and lots of great compliments on Rumble as well from the
Thank
live audience as well. So we'll get to, if you have questions, we'll get to those. But I do want to jump into this lawsuits that are coming out. Of course, he was running Children's Health Defense. It was focused on children. Uh, uh, and so there's these, the American Pediatric Society is suing him. The
you.
American College of Physicians is suing him.
Hmm.
Who else? The maternal fetal, where is it? Infectious Diseases Society, Massachusetts Public Health Alliance, Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, because he does not want all these vaccines into little babies, and they want to poison little babies. If they're not murdering them in the womb, then they want to jab them with, I don't know how many it is at
Hmm.
this point.
Yeah.
So my question here is this, do you view this as a setup, or do you view this as actual resistance? Because this suit just happened a while back.
Yeah, yeah. They just recently, because of the change of the FDA policy.
Yes, because he unilaterally changed FDA policy, and
Uh-huh.
so this is a civil suit. So there are,
Oops. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, you're frozen.
there we are. So he's going to get them in court, and it's going to be civil court. So it's a preponderance of the evidence. The preponderance of the evidence is going to clearly be against Big Pharmacia in this
Hmm.
area. And there are some saying that this was his plan. So I kind of lean towards that because I'm always hopeful, but I'm also uh, interested because originally Trump said he's not going to be HHS director, and then he turned out to be HHS director. So there was some kind of infighting there. There was some kind of trade off inside. He seems to maneuver a lot better than everybody else in the Constellation staff. So I'm real interested in how you're reading this case.
Well, the lawsuits. So the overall, the problem that we're having, and this is like a 64,000 foot view, is the we're at the state of our country and economy overall, that if they stop poisoning us, stop poisoning our children with these things, the U.S. economy crashes, because the pharmaceuticals and healthcare, delivery have become such a humongous part of the industry, and they 100% rely on sick and injured people and sick and injured children. And it's not just the healthcare, but it's also all the associated. Uh, for example, the spending on autistic children or children with disabilities, it's a government spending, and it's a humongous industry. It's a several $billion worth of industry, employing people. School districts, school districts get funding per head of injured child, so they're interested in having injured children. So they will, of course, for enforce vaccine policies, because that's the source of injured children, so that they can then get more funding, and so forth. So if you trace all of this, if you trace all the vaccine injuries downstream, you will see how humongous impact it is, both on public and private sector employment, and revenue and taxes and all that. So if that stopped, the economy crashes. And that's, the number one pressure on everyone in government is to maintain this, including Trump. as you see, his moves, a lot of his moves, including domestic and foreign policy, can be traced to the fact that they're desperate for funding. The dollar is collapsing. Nobody wants US debt. US debt skyrocketed under Trump 1.0 and is skyrocketing again. His spending, his budget is bigger than Biden's, again under Trump 2.0, and it's going into the stratosphere. Right now, the US debt is, government debt is 37 trillion, but it doesn't take into account unfunded liabilities, which together with unfunded liabilities, it's 150 trillion. Unfunded liabilities is all the promises that they made to retirees, to veterans, to police department retired people, all the administrators, school administrators. In some states, like California, again, if you worked in the school, fairly senior in the school district, you will be funded like a billionaire essentially. I have neighbors on the street where I have my house in Napa Valley. Two school retired. One was principal, one was a teacher. Retired couple. They're lovely. They're amazing people. They're pillars of the community. I love them. Their house is a $1 billion. Like, you will see that property in Architectural Digest, and they can afford it as retirees from a school district in California.
Wow. Wow.
And with the view, they have 270-degree view of the entire Napa Valley and all the way down to San Francisco. Nobody has that view. Not
That
even
reminds me.
you know?
That reminds me of the villas in Rome that they just kept building on the hills of Rome.
Yeah, so you had, and all of that, and then including all the healthcare and retirement. That's why they've been going after the elderly so hard as well, because they also need to kill them off. They need to kill off the claimants on all those unfunded liabilities, which includes the elderly and the disabled children. That's why, like, people with disabilities are in the crosshairs of new FDA MAHA policy for these COVID shots. And the associations that are suing over this policy are claiming, well, that's not enough. We need 100% of the population because our revenue is going to be affected. Same thing, because they realize that if they even lose a fraction of the population, which can be called healthy, whoever they are, then their revenue significantly take a hit, and that's why they're suing.
So, well, I understand about the elderly, and also that's a limited market anyway, and that's also going to kill off mainstream news. Like the average Fox viewer is like 70 or something. So that's where Liberty luminaries like my show, Mike's show, Ann Vandersteel's, others are going to continue to take over that market share. So they're going to have trouble siloing the public there. But because I do competitive intelligence in the biotech space, I can tell you clearly they don't know what to do. They are in trouble because no one's producing anything that works at all. Now they are going after kids, like you said, and there's a lot of oncology stuff coming out because of the turbo cancer caused by the weaponization of the COVID bioweapon. So that's a big field, but I don't see anything working, and it's just a disaster. So you're just saying keep the crisis going. So do you see again? Do you see the lawsuit against JFK as legitimate or as staged? Just like the Amazing Grace trial recently for Shara. They found, even though they killed her, that disabled daughter, they found for the company because they were obviously paid off. Do you think this is a legitimate fight of RFK, or do you think this is a false setup?
I mean, I don't like. I see the lawsuit. I understand, why they're suing, because it's their revenue at stake. And these people are absolutely awful, evil cabal of child poisoners, and
Yeah.
pregnant poisoners. So, I expect them to do that, and I'm sure RFK Jr. also expected the lawsuits, because it's now expected. Every move by a particular administration will be countered with lawsuits from supporters of the opposite politics, right? So, but as I said, both things are bad. The change to the policy of the FDA is also bad. And
But do you think? But do you think that? Sorry to interrupt. But do you think that he's going to get them into court? Do you
Mhm.
think this? A lot of people think he was setting them up
Setting
to
them
get them into court. So
but
they're
to get them into court to do what? I'm not sure what.
to show by a preponderance of the evidence, because it's a civil suit. So in a civil suit, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a preponderance of the evidence. There's the preponderance of the evidence clearly is against the bioweapons and the labeled as vaccines
Mhm.
to set them up. That he was waiting for this to happen so that he will win this court fight. That's out there.
I find it very convoluted as a line of thought, because I'm thinking what evidence you would bring to defend, because what he needs to defend in this lawsuit is the new MAHA FDA policy, which I said is avert eugenics. So, which evidence are you going to bring to defend eugenics in court? Okay, and how is that going to look any good for RFK to stand up and defend eugenics in court? And so that's why I'm like, this is a disaster on both sides. It's a disaster. That policy is disaster. This lawsuit is kind of a minor disaster in my view. I mean, it's just expected, them complaining about money, and maybe they'll be able to like get them, just get the case dismissed, because it's just a joke, that case. Like, they brought some Jane Doe, supposedly pregnant physician, who is because they need to show like there's actual, like, you can't just show, like, otherwise they will be thrown out because of standing. So they manufactured that anonymous plaintiff, Jane Doe, to add to their case, to say that, oh, she's now very concerned that she won't be able to like get it herself or get her baby vaccinated right away. And I think it's ridiculous, because she can, and the current policy says she can. There's nothing preventing her from doing so. So I don't think this case has a lot of legs. And as I said, like, the sort of, oh, he's setting them up to expose them. No, he's going
Well,
to be.
there was recently a Czechoslovakian study that showed that pregnancy terminations of young Czechoslovakian would be mothers
Mhm.
dipped. I'm sure you've seen that study, and that was being that. For example, there's something that could be brought in as a preponderance of the evidence. Someplace there was I think a Pfizer study that I can't find it now, but I remember years back seeing it, that every pregnant mother in some study, maybe it was Pfizer, miscarried.
Yes,
Every one
no,
of them.
absolutely. I've written about that myself. Now, but I'm saying, like, the FDA policy says that this shot should be given to pregnant women who are at some sort of risk, and children at a bunch of risks that they specify in the policy, including cardiovascular disease, obesity, and so forth. And if you go and defend this in court against this lawsuit, you have to bring this evidence to, so like you're saying, we can bring the evidence saying this shot is very dangerous, it causes miscarriages in pregnant women, and at the same time defend the fact that you are recommending it to women at risk. That's what I call defending avert eugenics in court. This is not going to look good to anyone,
So
because that's what the FDA policy says. That's why I've been criticizing this policy, and I've been calling for, get rid of Makary and Prasad. They must resign in shame. Those two must resign in shame. Their names are on this policy. It's published in New England Journal of Medicine.
so what would you like to see? So give me your top points of what you would like to see RFK doing right now.
So I've been very clear about what I'd like him to do, and I actually even had a phone call with him about this recently.
Oh, you
And
did?
yeah, he called me after we published letter, open letter, myself, Naomi Wolf, Shannon Joy, and Dr. Mary Taylor Bowden. We published a letter highly critical of their positions and their moves that they've made, especially this policy, this FDA policy, and trying to create a pressure group for them to start fulfilling their commitments from the campaign trail. And after that, he called me and we had a brief discussion. And so I can confirm he knows what he can do and what the law tells that he can do. The law under public health emergency currently declared for COVID for 10 years, going until the end of 2029, gives HHS secretary almost dictatorial powers.
Because of the PrEP Act, because of the emergency authorization.
Yes, because of this, and it gives him.
So I want to make sure, explain that a little bit, because I want to make sure everybody understands that, because he could use the emergency authorization to everyone's benefit, but he has not.
Yes, he has not, and so he knows this, and I've discussed this with him. We're on video 2 years ago on his podcast discussing the same exact thing. So he knows, and the PrEP Act says that HHS secretary can declare pandemics, first of all, unilaterally based on his own opinion. No data is needed. Nothing needs to be proven. So that's my biggest pushback toward everyone who says, oh, but we need to collect all the gold science data and convince the courts and convince the Congress and convince all the public, and only then he can change any policies, because his hands are tied. He needs to satisfy all these people. Actually, no. The US law is written in such a way that they never needed any gold standard science for anything. They did not need gold standard science to strip us of our rights, of our constitutional rights, which they have done. They did not need the data or science to put those 90 some poisons on CDC schedule in the first place. They did not need data or science to declare COVID emergency, and there was none. There was no data or science. It was just a memo written by Alex Azar at the time. So the same memo can be written by RFK Jr. to say, oh, I no longer believe that there is a pandemic. That's all that's required to stop all of this. Now, he knows this. Now, this would be a nuclear option, because that same day he would be fired as an HHS secretary because of Trump, Susie Wiles, and all of their backers from pharmaceutical industry and healthcare and so forth.
Susie Wiles' previous clients were big pharma, and Vance was with Purdue Pharma.
Oh, yeah, Vance was with Purdue. Vance is involved with Resilience, which is a CIA-backed biomanufacturing company making all these poisons, cranking them out. He invested in Amplify Bio, which does all the animal stuff for them. So anyway, they're all completely embroiled in this, and so he'd be fired, of course, the same day. Now, so I call it nuclear option. Okay, and but the cat would be out of the bag, and it would be very difficult to put it back in. But short of doing that, he can do a lot of things. Number one, start telling the truth. Start telling the truth about EUA countermeasures, PrEP Act. By the way, PrEP Act, this awful piece of law, also requires them to disclose all the known risks about EUA countermeasures. And major known risks about EUA countermeasures is the fact that they're regulation-free, liability-free, legal poisons, and it's legal to lie about them in marketing. And if anyone is injured by them, they go into a black hole called Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, which pays nothing and does nothing. Okay, so that's part of the disclosure.
Well, he's not going to do that, because that would then reflect badly on his boss, Trump.
Well, there we go, right? So, but I'm saying you don't need to actually do anything as far as ongoing situation. All you have to do is tell the truth. And they could that. I actually I succeeded in getting Louisiana Health Department. So we've written a couple of years ago. We've written a legal memo about EUA countermeasures. What I just said, disclosing the known risks, that they're regulation-free, liability-free, legal to lie about, and you go to countermeasure compensation injury program. And we made that. It's a 2-page memo with law cited and with references, and send it to on request by Louisiana state lawmakers to their health department. And since then, their health department stopped recommending the shots because, oh, they got the disclosure. And so it can be done pretty effectively.
Well, that's what you're doing with all your local appearances. You've done a ton of those, and working with local groups to then work with local AGs. We've been trying to do that on Team America as well, and so that's working. That's
yeah. In Idaho, we were very successful. We even have the law that they passed, the health freedom law, which is the strongest in the United States. And so yeah, it can work, and you can disclose the truth, and people change their mind based on the truth.
Well, I don't think it'd be a nuclear option. It would be a gradual increasing of his power base inside the Trump administration, while he pushed out against the Constellation staff that is all pro big pharmacia. I think it'd have to be gradual, and that could be happening, But again, I think looking at him at this, as high profile as he is, he's definitely going to make a presidential run, and he's much more charismatic than Vance or anything. I think people, especially now where people really want truth, he may be going to say, well, I couldn't, because I was under Trump, but I see that coming as well. What do you think about that?
Probably. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's he's charismatic. He has a lot of following himself, and I think he is being a team player right now. I would say with Team Trump.
You got to be a team player, especially with Susan Weiss. You cannot, if you aren't on the team, and if you don't keep your mouth shut, you're out there. Which I can completely understand after the first time around.
Well, but the fact of the matter is they're marching us into the digital gulag and complete control system anyway, because of their backers and because of what's happening. So that's why I'm like, well, I am going to criticize their actions. I as I said, I like RFK Jr. I think he's a good guy, but he is acting right now. He's playing a team. He's being a team member with Team Evil. So I can't.
I know he wouldn't. I wouldn't know. I know he wouldn't declare anything on a call with you. He's way too smart for that. But did you get any indications of? Did he just listen, or is there anything you can infer from what he said?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't really discuss the content of the private phone call.
Sure.
But as I said, I mean, it was a friendly discussion. I can confirm that he knows all this, but he knew it way before. And it didn't really give me a lot of confidence. And so that's where I am. I'll just keep speaking against the actions that I think are wrong. And I'm going to be honest about it. I just want the truth.
The fact that he called you shows that you have penetrated the Constellation staff, installating
cabinets.
That means you're infiltrating them, which is exactly what this is. Exactly what the resistance movement is about, is getting in there. That's good. That's a step in the right direction.
It's good. I mean, to me, it says that message resonated with them and got them concerned enough for him to make that phone call. And, and that to me says we need to continue this. We need to continue holding them honest. Our job is to hold them honest, because we got so many. Also, once we published this letter, all of us received phone calls from the Maha adjacent freedom fighters, big accounts and so forth, telling us, oh, you don't understand, you little women don't understand the big man politics, and you need to sit down and shut up and go back to the kitchen. And we said, we're not doing that. They said, well, you need to be supportive of Bobby. Bobby's fighting for all of us, and he needs gentle encouragement. To which we said, we're not his therapist. Okay, we're not his therapist. We're a pressure group. of moms who are pissed off like hell, and we're not going away. So that's what everyone needs to be doing.
That's excellent. So, there's also a theory that uh, Trump went along with the Iranian bombing because Iran supplies oil to China, and Trump's ultimate legacy that he's looking for is to collapse communism in China the way Reagan collapsed communism in the Soviet Union.
Hmm.
So, and I'm going someplace, but I want to know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, the whole Iran situation, I knew right away it was also fake.
Yeah, I
So
agree. It was a total setup. I've said that from the beginning. In fact, I
yeah,
called it early. Yeah.
yeah. Like first of all, nobody has money to even like a few hours of real World War III, and second of all, like Iran cannot be invaded. Um, just doing these aerial kind of strikes is not doing anything.
No, no, you
Yeah.
win with boots on the ground. The
Yeah.
aerial war win is a myth. The exception
Uh-huh.
is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's a different, but that's nuclear. But
Yeah.
where I'm going with that is to back to Ukraine, because the other thing that all MAGA wanted was out of Ukraine, which is a CIA run. Everybody knows it's a CIA run color revolution, and now he's back to funding Ukraine. And even Hegstead didn't look like he was happy about.
Yeah, like I was, like just a few weeks ago, he said no more funding for Ukraine. I was like, oh, thank God, something I can like him for. And then now it's just send more weapons. I just can't.
Yeah, but why do you think the reversal?
Well, because again, to him, it's basically funding everything. He's like a corporate guy who's trying to restructure a casino or hotel or whatever hotel chain. And in the restructuring situation, you have to restructure the debt first. So that's what in my opinion Trump's main job is right now. He's trying to restructure the debt. He's trying to shove the US government debt and treasuries to all these now more and more unwilling foreign governments. At the same time, actually, I'm publishing an article tomorrow from my friend who writes on more economics and finance. So domestically, he's trying to shove treasuries into the private sector via these stable coins, various stable coins scams. I'll have an explanation about that. But anyway, so it's obvious that all of his moves. Then another move is like so the funding of Ukraine. Somehow he had to do it, like maybe I don't know, maybe in exchange for Zelensky buying U.S. treasuries or something with the same money. So it's probably something like that, something very simple. Or maybe UK and whoever else wants the war in Ukraine, and to convince those governments to buy US treasuries, he has to now fund the Ukrainian war. That would be a very simple explanation. And then so all of these moves. Recently it was the funniest thing. I recommend people to go look at Candace Owens' Twitter account, and Trump called her. So she has this whole like a 5 minute
Oh yeah.
video laughing that Trump called her directly to ask her to stop talking about Macron's wife's penis. And she she was just in shock and kind of because why? Because again, he's doing some kind of a deal with Macron, and Macron is a good guy, and like, can you just shut up a little bit? I need to finish this deal.
But I saw that, but I saw that as kind of a dangle distraction. I don't really care about Macron's wife's penis. I care about Ukraine. Bombing Iran.
Yeah, but all of these things
But it
that
does show the pressure. It does show
yeah,
that RFK is responding to you. Trump's responding to her. If we keep that's the test here right now. Is there
uh-huh,
is no list? Move on. Think
mhm,
about the dead kids in Texas now. If
uh-huh.
if we keep the pressure on, I think this is an inflection point test for us. Whether we're gonna just roll over with this.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to keep the pressure on, because obviously, like my example, Candace's example shows it works. It works. They are it's so cornered that they will take this seriously. And if we have a reason, we don't want hate attacks, we don't want smears and stuff, but we want reasonable pushback on based on the factual on their actions and what they're doing and what they're not doing, what they promised us to do and what they're doing now. So I am glad he created this whole humiliation ritual about Epstein files, by the way, for Pam Bondi and for Kash Patel and for Bongino and for all those clowns who got all those binders from White House. I mean, that's perfect in my opinion, because it just shows.
Wait a minute, who's creating the humiliation ritual?
Well, like Trump is running this humiliation ritual probably on behalf of Netanyahu and whoever else was behind Epstein, because he needs to do a deal, and so those people told him, okay, now you're going to go and say there are no Epstein files, and that's what they're doing, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, so I understand the humiliation ritual satanic reference, but
Mhm.
I saw this as to disenfranchise Trump from his base and also to split and splinter MAGA, because MAGA is now
Mhm.
splintered by this
Yeah,
as well. But
but
humiliation ritual is another
Mhm.
term for that. So there's Open Observatory asks, can Sasha describe what she thinks the digital gulag will involve? Well, we're already moving into it quite well, but go
uh,
ahead.
Yeah, so at the core of it is going to be Palantir software or AI or whatever, the
Which
database,
is there. It's
which is
there
already
now.
there. Yeah, it's already there. They're
Yeah.
already built into the healthcare system. It's the same software that they use to create targets for military in the combat zones. And it's the targeting of individuals. So for example, they can combine the digital health records, which Palantir is already processing, with your social security, with your Medicare, Medicaid payments, with your movement data, with your purchasing data, with your employment data, social media profile. And so, for example, if I go to the hospital, I'm targeted. I will never go to a hospital because I know I'm targeted. I will be targeted for some kind of elimination protocol with some bullshit, oh, you've tested for, novel virus and now we need this new treatment or whatever. But I can be individually targeted into that, where the next person next to me with the same thing will be put in a completely different protocol. This is what they can do. They can also, do lawfare against you more easily. They can cancel your financial transactions. They can debank you, deplatform you. The LinkedIn already banned me. I'm an expert.
Really?
Yeah, I'm an expert witness in a high-profile case. They they locked me out of my account. They won't let me in. They removed my photo from my profile. My profile is still there, but they removed my photo from my profile. I didn't do that. They did. Why? Because they want to deperson me. Because my professional profile is my qualifications that I'm using as an expert witness. And so they want me to be like, oh, she's nothing. She doesn't even have it's just it's an old fake profile. That's what they want to position it as. And that's, again, it's targeting of all of us. But before they couldn't do it so precisely and individually. Now they can do it precisely and individually. Oh, and then all, of course, your real
Because
ID,
of Palantir.
because of Palantir. So then your real ID will be tied to this. So I advise people go to the DMV and ask them to downgrade you to without the star.
Yeah, use your passport instead
Use
of
your
your,
passport.
your
Yeah,
driver's license with the real ID. Uh,
yeah. And you
yes.
can also buy a passport card, so you don't need to carry your passport around, but you can buy a passport card and use that.
Uh, did your Ukraine was supposed to be the first digital, and Zelensky went a long way to making that happen. And
Mhm.
so, really, uh, now they're doing it to the United States. So,
Yeah, yeah.
what
They
they did
have
in Ukraine,
Ukraine has an app already for all citizens. It's called DIA. And this app is like that digital ID thing, and it has all of your like social security records, all of your birth certificate, like all the government records, health records, everything in it. And it's like it's sold to the public as well. It's so convenient. You have everything in one place. Well, when you have everything in one place, it also makes it very convenient for them to strip you of your rights and put you in prison and persecute you and oppress you in a variety of ways.
But Ukraine was, and will lose to Russia. And Russia was really responding to aerial vectors, some drones, some mini drones, some actual avian vector carrying genetic weaponry into the that was targeted. But at least that's my take on that. And they've said that a lot. But you also disagree about the genetic weaponry, don't you? The effectiveness of it, or am I wrong? Is it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's
The whole genetic, it's nonsense. There's no science basis to it at all. So, like, the whole area of genetics is BS. But it's a very long discussion. I write articles about it. I have several good articles on it.
well, it's
It's
because it's based on subjective baseline that it was established on. So American Indian tribes have objected to whom they decide that because they didn't get to establish those baselines. The government established those baselines,
Mhm,
and it was just whoever said whatever, and they just
mhm,
labeled it like Ashkenazi Jews is not
mhm.
really a bloodline, a genotype. It's a
It's
religious designation of European people.
Yeah, exactly. So there was recently somebody asked me this was a while back, but somebody asked me recently about this whole Ashkenazi Jews with respect to COVID SARS-CoV-2 virus, right? So there was remember at the beginning of the fake pandemic, there was this scientific paper, or maybe several even circulating, saying that SARS-CoV-2 was designed specifically, genetically designed to target like Black people and maybe Asian people, but be not dangerous to Ashkenazi Jews. And that was taken like this whole, it's designed to protect the Jews. I looked at that paper. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. That the differences they found were tiny, absolutely tiny, such that if you are a Black woman, you're much more protected from COVID than an Ashkenazi man. Okay, so gender has much more impact than all of that genetic manipulation and modeling that they do. And so it's absolute nonsense, and nobody can design that, because we are. By the way, if you do blind DNA testing, you can't tell the difference between you and your dog.
Really?
Oftentimes they won't be able to tell that the DNA came from a dog or from you. Somebody did all these like pranks on 23andMe. Send lizard. They have a pet iguana, and they send swab
Oh yeah,
to
yeah. I remember that now.
23andMe.
Yeah.
Came back as Ashkenazi Jewish. So so I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this whole genetic. So that's when they do a blind test. So, but they're saying, but they're using it in forensics and so forth. In forensics, what they do, they match. You need to have you need to match it to something, and so they use it to match. And it's never used as standalone evidence for that reason. It's only used as a confirmatory or some circumstantial evidence.
Well,
And
the whole FBI lab DNA program a couple years back was thrown up because it was all wrong. It was all
uh-huh,
the chain of
yeah,
custody was all wrong,
yeah,
and they had
yeah.
to review all kinds of cases
Yeah, so
for that.
given that testing is so bad, how can they target something like based on genetic profile? It's nonsense. Okay, so you can't, and that
But
doesn't
the
happen.
psyop of it, is very effective, just like the psyop of COVID was very effective, just like the psyop. I guess you
Yep.
could even say mutually assured destruction for nuclear warfare, because if it's airburst, if you limit the air bursts, there's not that much radiation.
Mm-hmm.
If the air bursts are over high areas, because then it goes up into the upper atmosphere, it's the
Mm-hmm.
ground bursts that cause the problems. But everybody thinks about, well, you can't take the terrain because you have nuked it. Well, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are thriving cities
Yeah, yeah,
today. So
yeah.
the psychological effect of the weapon vector, no matter how ineffective or effective the weapon is, whether it's nukes or whether it's the bioweapon or whether it's the genetic weaponry by avian or drone vector into
Mhm.
Russia from Ukraine via CIA, it's still effective for its purpose,
It's
I would
effective
say.
as a psychological. Yeah. So I also reviewed the bioweapons development programs, anything I can find about it, and it's very conclusive that they long time ago decided that these weapons are not really good as weapons, but they're good as psychological weapons. So that's how they've been used, and
So what
that's
do you think of the all the stuff that the Russian military has put out about Ukraine, and where they have focused specifically on Biden and Obama? And Obama did go over there with Luger in 1995 and start the biolabs in Ukraine. What do you think of what I'm sure you've looked at what's Russia
that
presents to the international court?
they were accusing them. By the way, they didn't they assassinate Kirillov already? Their head of Seaburn, who was doing those
They
visits.
did. They
All right.
did.
So
But
he,
Senator Lugar and Obama went over there in 95 into Ukraine to establish the biolabs that eventually
yeah,
became the 46 biolabs. But,
yeah,
we're,
I know. But those bio, it's again those biolabs. Yeah, they've been under U.S. control all this time, and now they're in active war zone. At least some of them, and nothing happened. So that tells you like nothing actually happens there. They store samples. They collect some. They want diversity of samples from various geographies, and they collect both like plant, animal, and human samples. And they try to patent some unique. They try to use those samples to come up with unique models of these chimeric viruses that then they patent. But it's all vaporware. It's computer models that they patent, and then they make products based on those designs. But again, it
synthetic
has
biology, that's synthetic bio in the profession now. It's synthetic biology by AI.
yeah,
They're,
yeah,
they're gonna
synthetic
they're
biology
gonna
by
generate cure for cancer in 48 hours. I think that
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
Spiel
yeah. Because
saying that.
but they're collecting all that IP to enable this now the Stargate project. None of it is beneficial or working. All of it is just financial manipulation, vaporware, psychological operation, and a whole bunch of computer modeling to back it up. So like I don't fear it as a weapon. All I'm like saying, it's confusing a lot of people, driving fear and propaganda, and that's what they're using it for. That's what's it effective for.
Well, I always quote you when you were on a while back talking about Giordino showing how you inject a couple people, they fall over to get things started, and nobody else falls over, and then you say it's the COVID thing. Can you review that real quick?
All right, yeah.
Um,
So there are a series of presentations by James Giordano. He's a neuroscientist in an army like lecturer on these issues, and so he talks about how to fake pandemics a couple of times, like script for faking pandemics, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, we need first of all we need very few cases, maybe 200 cases to fake a whole pandemic. How? Well, by deploying some chemical and simulating some weird symptoms in people so they freak out. At the same time, producing massive amount of media propaganda and fear mongering about novel virus that leaked usually from China. China is like their go-to place, and that leaked from China, maybe not, maybe it's natural, maybe it's like so create all this like confusion and rumors and a whole bunch of trolls on the internet and accounts and mainstream media debunking and rebunking, so everyone is glued to this, right? And being very afraid, and then drive that for a while and then use PCR to fake diagnose everyone with a novel asymptomatic deadly coronavirus. That's what they did. Exactly what they did.
And so I before Independence Day, I was telling everybody, watch out for the Congressional Commission back in April 2024, where they actually read from their script for a bio attack of the
Hmm.
Nipah modified, where it's going to kill 320 Americans in one day. I'm like, it can't happen. Sasha explained why that can't happen. If it was that deadly, it would kill off its host too quickly. And so nothing did happen. Now Texas happened,
Uh-huh.
so I, I'm sure they plan to do that, but
Yeah.
I think maybe we got it out, the message out so much that they didn't do that, and maybe they switched to the Texas weather warfare, which I think is getting pretty well affirmed now with all the
Mm-hmm.
evidence and intelligence analysis that it was weather warfare. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it was, and I'm really saying it was to distract from Epstein and deep state control as well.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm pretty sure that that whole Texas thing was induced somehow, and they can do these things. I mean, there, yeah. When the whole story was like, oh, there's going to be a new virus, I was like, no, that's not. But you have to expect like terrorist acts like this, and yeah, they like to use weather events for distraction, or maybe they're demonstrating something to somebody. I don't know. Maybe it's like a weapons demonstration. It could be.
I think it's so funny because I've published on my Patreon China's bird-like drones now strike targets without warning or detection. And they're talking about how China has these bird-like drones and they have these manta-like drones. And I wrote, I saw back when I was still in the community back in the 2000s, I saw the mechanical catfish and the mechanical hummingbird and beetle. That
Mhm.
was all CIA stuff,
Uh-huh.
which then Ukraine had sent it over to Russia. But now all of a sudden it's China and China's got it. It's the distraction, the dangle to go after China.
Uh-huh.
Uh, or if China's not good enough, then go after Iran.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, it's even written into their policy documents, into DoD policy documents. What you do, like you do a false flag. What you do, you first blame China, then Iran, then Russia. So like,
I remember when you shared that I was on one of their lists, except as Jeremy Prather,
uh-huh.
and the address was actually 3100 Clarendon, which is where I ran the DIA Watch Center. That was actually, and they couldn't even get my name right. I was actually working there, which is funny because one time they wanted my credentials back. Of course, I don't have them anymore, but they were calling my warrant to get my credentials,
Mhm.
and he goes, he's a floor below you. Uh, and do you see that? So they're not giants or geniuses by any means. They're just father failures. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, and you were on that list too. I remember that
Oh
was
yeah,
a while
yeah,
back. Well, this has been great. What else do you want to get out before we wrap up? I don't want to hold you forever, but this is fascinating.
yeah. I think actually I have to run. Somebody needs me. But yeah, I this was great. So thank you for inviting me, and let's stay in touch.
Oh, I did want to ask you one more quick thing. So I disagree with Mike. Mike Adams is all about AI. I'm saying AI is a fast parrot. Did you agree or disagree with him on that, or did you guys get to that?
Like as far as if AI is very effective, yeah, I agree. It's not very effective. It's not
Yeah,
smart. It's
yeah,
full of issues
just
and problems. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't think it's like
great.
all powerful and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, me too. Well, thank you so much, Sasha. Great to see you again. God
Okay.
bless.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there's the great Sasha Latypova, super smart lady and super great artist. Uh, and so please like, share, and subscribe this cast as well. Didn't see any more questions from anybody else. But anyway, remember, the gun is not the answer. You are. The gun is a tool in a toolbox of tactics, techniques, and practices. Talking to my HMAC class last night. Trump is not the answer. God is. Trump is a temporary advocate in a shifting, stormy sea of political power alliances riding the tides. Trump is an ally until he's not. To see the crooked lines of man, find the straight line of biblical truth. If you are wildly popular, you are undoubtedly wrong. If you are mocked, made fun of, and mistreated, you're probably on target. If you're waiting for adulation and praise, join the circus. Ignore your critics, cherish your friends, know your chain of command, delineate your duty, triage your priorities God, family, clan, tribe, nation. To become spirit filled, empty ego. The only real initiation for a warrior is battle. The true certification for a soldier is the enemy. It's not about how you comport yourself in victory, but in defeat. It's not how you perform in public, but in private. Be grateful, and you will become grace filled. Our times here are like water drops. Savor and share the moment, because all too soon and suddenly